tonight is a wild night for
Good, and you?
Airbnb.
Doing better.
Good.
I'm wearing clothes over my head now.
There you go. That's an
It's
achievement, right?
huge. You don't realize till you can't. You know?
I visited the dermatologist today on Wednesday and took a couple chunks out of my head.
What do they think?
Well, they won't get the results back for like 7 days. So the
So,
one doesn't look good. The other one he says doesn't think it's going to be a problem. So we'll see.
so I've had over 50 stitches on my face because of cancer. I've done chemo 3
Okay.
times. And, I've been doing it since 1990. It's always been basal cell, fortunately. They said
Sure.
it was melanoma. But
Well,
they
he
don't
said
know.
the one here, the one more towards the center of the forehead.
Yeah.
He said even if it is, it's early stages.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have a friend who just did an early stage melanoma. It wasn't. But like when I do chemo, you can tell my face is red and blistering. And people,
Well, Sean's going through the same thing.
yeah.
Sean's having issues too.
So people.
But I was never a sun person, but I never did the beach. I never did that kind of stuff. But you know, I was outside with my job probably the first 20 years of
yeah.
my career. Okay, and in the sun, and you know, it's chest and mostly the face area, and a little. I got a couple marks here, and
Yeah.
it is what it is, unfortunately.
Truck
And
drivers.
have to deal with it.
Truck drivers get the left arm because they have the.
Oh yeah.
So
Abs-
also
abs-
ancestry. The British ancestry highest in the world. It's by how far your ancestors were.
Okay. Yeah.
Everyone in my family, and my mother never. She was never.
See, I've never had a history of that. Although my ancestry is English and Irish. I've never.
yeah, Irish
my,
too.
my parents,
Irish.
my parents never had it. You know, my brother doesn't suffer from it, and all of a sudden,
Consider what?
this came up. But
Your parents maybe never went.
I mean, realized it. That's true
I
too.
mean, like, how much stuff, look at this thing, you know, like, it's just ate you. But people would show me what they had.
All right.
Okay.
They go to the doctor.
Yep.
The doctors don't even know.
Yeah, because back when my parents, he died of something else before he died of
Right.
skin cancer.
Well, it's also we're living longer. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah.
We have a lot to look forward to.
Although my parents lived to 80, one was 85, one was 83, so
Yeah.
they lived pretty good lives. Of course, I'm catching them. I'm only 10 years behind the one, so.
I know, we're catching up fast. My
That's
parents
crazy.
were both 90. My grandparents.
I had
What's the executive session about?
the executive session is about redevelopment.
Who is?
Oh, Miss Karen.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Howard.
How we doing, all right? Good.
There, hello again.
It's always good to see you there, James.
Thank you. Good to be seen.
No, I mean, well, you've been in meetings all week. I know. What can I
I
do?
guess Mr. Smith
You know,
in the sun.
He's in Florida, in the sun.
Yeah, I
Yep.
saw pictures.
Uh-huh. Hey, he deserves to get away. He works hard.
Oh, I know, he does.
Yeah, I went to the meeting last night.
You want to talk about it?
I can do it, yeah. I can
Do it, yeah, because I'm just going to say, I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody's
Yeah.
picking me up. You know, that's, but it's like, I'm not even going to know a little bit. Is it the mayor's meeting, Rick W. was,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, met Jason.
Oh, okay.
That's,
Good evening.
interesting.
Oh, I want to use this Teresa.
You know that you got only have 6 more years for,
Right. Yeah, they were talking about that. It's goes, and then it goes away.
85.
85 more years?
Yeah, but then we're gonna have to pay to send it to.
Well, they need a
My
wastewater
last
treatment
one.
plant. We need
That's
this
it.
for our trash.
There you go.
No, you're really.
So it sounds like it should be a deal there somewhere.
Now with that.
Make a deal, make a deal.
I met him, I mean, I've always liked Rick.
Yeah. It was instrumental.
I'm planning on it.
I'll
As
be
long as
there.
everything goes all right.
We're live. Yeah, we've been good.
Okay.
Is it?
This meeting is called to order. Would everyone please rise for the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please?
Oh, that's fine.
Hey, Rick, it's Jason.
Roll call. No, he's on speaker.
Okay, roll call. Councilmember Bruno? Here. Councilmember Owen?
Here.
Councilmember DePanforos? Here. Councilmember McCary?
Here.
Councilmember McGuigan?
I'm sorry, here.
Councilmember Dill?
Here.
Council President Johnston?
Here. Also present tonight is Mayor Glasser, Administrator Frost, City Clerk Samuelson, and filling in for our city solicitor is Mr. Franklin. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. The agenda for this meeting is posted in City Hall and on the city's website, summerspointgov.org. Okay, we will start with communications. Anyone have any communications to offer? I have a letter that I was asked to read from a resident. Where is his name? Mr. Stroker, Josh Stroker. I am a homeowner, but I have never rented out my house, and I probably never will, but it is nice to have the option. I feel strongly that I should be able to do what I want with my property within reason, of course. I believe that above all, it is important to be a good neighbor. So I understand that there have been some properties that have caused repeated disturbances. I fully support oversight when it comes to safety, inspections, etc., but I feel that the proposed changes are too restrictive for Summers Point. First, the proposal to prohibit renting of single bedrooms will make Summers Point less attractive to traveling professionals. My wife works in healthcare and knows traveling nurses and therapists who travel from place to place. They're traveling health professionals working at the hospital who stay in short-term rentals for weeks to a few months. I'm a government contractor. I have coworkers who come to Atlantic County for short periods. Some stay in hotels with business suites. Others stay in rented rooms short-term. Please consider these individuals too. My second issue is that the ordinance requires the owner to be in Atlantic County or a property manager to be within 10 miles. 10 miles is roughly the southern end of Upper Township. So you could be so-called local living in Cape May County with a spare property in Summers Point, but now you must pay a property manager on top of the additional taxes and fees to rent your property. There are also some families who live farther west or in Pennsylvania who have shore homes. These working class families who are fortunate enough to have a shore home now have an added burden of hiring a property manager that they are within an hour drive, and it is possible to have 24/7 contact with a cell phone or email. It is apparent that you are taking this matter seriously, and I appreciate the effort and thought you have given to crafted this solution. Your proposed restrictions are less strict than some of the other neighboring municipalities, some which have high rate bans on short-term rentals. But I feel ordinance 7 needs to be needs more work before it's passed. Thank you, Mr. Joshua Stroker. Anyone else have any communications? Hearing none. Mr. Mayor?
Good evening. As I had mentioned in last council meeting concerning the monument at the foot of New Jersey Avenue, thank you, Mr. Shank, for that nice little article. But I did have a chance to meet with the students who were in the CAD class, that's computer-aided design class, at ACIT, Land County Institute of Technology. I spent about an hour with them this week discussing what our ideas were and pretty much asking them to come up with a great design, and which I know they will. They will, in a couple of weeks, will be coming back to us. The route we're going to take with this is members of Veterans Advisory Board will review it, and then, of course, in the long run, it will come before this governing body. But I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the many projects the veterans are talking about right now. So with that, I did attend the monthly mayor's meeting a few weeks ago. The big topic, of course, our guest speaker was outgoing president of the ACUA, Rick Dovey. And something Jason and I just spoke about a few minutes ago is that the Atlantic County only has, 6 more years of, before we have to look elsewhere for a dumping in a landfill. I know they're in the process of doing that. We also, at that meeting was discussed oversight of the ACUA and the high cost of the tipping fees. Saturday night, Fire Company number 1 will be having their dinner at Flanders. I'm, again, honored for the many years to do the invocation and the swearing in of the officers. And of course, I am extremely happy that we are going to have Bayfest on April 29th. And I just want to start off by thanking some people who have picked up the ball. Mr. McGuigan was involved with this, Mr. Frost, and Greg Gregory to start off with. And I know there are a lot of other people who are working on this now, but Bayfest is, next to Good Old Days, it's one of our most, it shines, makes Summers Point shine. And I just couldn't see Summers Point not having it. And I'm thankful, very thankful to you all being involved with this. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. If I could just add to your Bayfest comment, I did go to the meeting last night, the committee meeting. They're very, very organized, and I think it's going to be a great event, even though we got a late start. Any of the information applications for vendors or for sponsorships is posted on our website, and it's also on Facebook. So if you need any information, that's where you can find it. Okay, Mr. Frost.
Yes, good evening. Couple things tonight. Yesterday, we had a meeting out at the county engineering office as it pertains to the intersection of Ocean Heights and the bike path. We had representatives from the county. Council President Johnston was there. Our engineer, Greg Schneider, was there, and Captain Semena was there as well as representatives from Atlantic County, the engineering office, and Linwood. And the idea was to get all the stakeholders together. Obviously, the Ocean Heights is county road. The one side is Summers Point, the other side's Linwood. Obviously, there's been 2 tragic accidents there. So we kind of got an update in terms of what everyone had plans to do from an improvement standpoint. And it is worth noting that we have some pedestrian improvements that are going to be going in down there. It also is worth noting that those have been planned years before any of this happened, but it does look like those things will come during the 2023 calendar year. So I wanted to give everyone, an update on that and the things that we're paying attention to. In addition to that, on this evening's agenda, you'll see Resolution 69. This is actually something that was previously approved last year, but the state contract price is incorrectly quoted to us. So you can't really do a change order because it's a purchase order. So I wanted to have that reflected the correct price. I will note that the price actually came down $1,400 and change on that one purchase. And then, since I'm already talking about it, it was gonna come up during old business, but ordinance number 2 of 2023 in section 2, item B, it references the number that was to be determined by our auditors, Ford Scott. The ordinance doesn't reflect the correct number, which should actually be $5.85. And I did talk to Solicitor Smith, and he said that it's a clerical notation that we can, handle this way. So I wanted to bring that up as well. And that is all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin, I know you're filling in, but do you have any comments?
Nope, I'm taking my notes, and it's nice to see you, so I can brief Mr. Smith on what happened. So,
Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
let me stop.
Mr. Snyder is not with us tonight. Committee reports. Does anyone have any committee reports to offer?
Madam President, I attended the Garden Club this week, and they had a speaker, Damon Smith, a veteran, who founded Gloves on the Ground, and you can find it at glovesontheground.com, and it's they have seeds from around the world, from countries that have been victims of war and violent conflict, and he talked about PTSD and how it's helping veterans doing all this, and he's local, and it's really interesting. It was really interesting, and again, it's at glovesontheground.com, and they're very busy. They're working on, it's spring, and they're doing the Four Corners, the community garden, and the butterfly garden, and they're looking for gardens for their contest. They have a contest this year, and out of that contest comes the garden tour next year. So if you know anyone with a great garden, or you have one, they have prizes and all, so.
Thank you. Any other committee reports?
Yes, Madam President, this past week, Economic Development met on this past Monday over at the Gateway Theater, and we've come up with a whole new marketing program. We're actually looking forward to the RFP going out so we can get a marketing firm to work with the city to promote the city, which should be coming up. Also, with this coming week, the Small Business Association is gonna have a mixer over at Joe's and Kelly's, March 14th from 5 to 7. And then also in the near future, with recreation, we're also gonna have the Easter egg hunt April 1st. Of course, Sean also attended that meeting with me on recreation, so I'll get into that right now. The Garvey's boats races are going to be coming back in July and August, and the rest was just general housekeeping with some of the permits coming in front of the board with, the schools want to have access to the recreation fields, as well as them being the recreation board trying to get their budgets put together for things that are much needed to improve various facilities. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes,
I
Mr.
had occasion to attend the Environmental Commission meeting, and out of that meeting came a couple recommendations from that board, which I'll bring up under, we'll put them under new business, a couple minor recommendations for our code, and I'll discuss them under new business.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on, could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 23rd, 2023 council meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Okay, we'll move on to ordinance number 3.
Ordinance number 3 of 2023, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Summers Point Municipal Code, Chapter 250, Vehicles and Traffic, and enacting Article 9, Section 250-73, designated crosswalks, and repealing all ordinances heretofore adopted, the provisions of which are inconsistent herewith.
This is a second reading of this ordinance. May I have a motion to open for public comment, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment on ordinance number 3. If you wish to speak, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 3?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance number 3 is adopted. Ordinance number 5, please.
Ordinance number 5 of 2023, calendar year 2023, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank.
This is also a second reading. May I have a motion to open for public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment on ordinance number 5.
Motion to
Seeing,
close the public portion.
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 5?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comments? Do I need a roll call for this one?
No.
I didn't know. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance number 5 is adopted. Ordinance number 6.
Ordinance number 6 of 2023, an ordinance of the City of Summers Point authorizing the acquisition by deed of easement for a portion of Block 1214, Lot 16.01, located within the City of Summers Point from Sunset Avenue Development LLC for the municipal public purpose of a sidewalk easement.
A motion to open for public comment for ordinance number 6, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment on ordinance number 6. May I have a motion to close for public comment, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 6, please?
So moved. Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now, ordinance number 6 is adopted. Ordinance number 7.
Ordinance number 7 of 2023, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Summers Point Municipal Code, Chapter 169, littering and property maintenance, Article 5, registration and inspection of certain rental units, apartments, and dwelling units.
May I have a motion to open for public comment, please?
Madam President, may I speak before we open to the public?
Okay.
All right, just a couple points, and obviously, you know, I voiced my opposition at the last meeting. And and I'm certain that all the council members are aware that this is an ordinance, and we voted to introduce it last time, and then, of course, this is up for adoption, or we could decline it. And just note that even if you voted to adopt it, you could change your mind and vote to not approve it. Just a question for the subcommittee, and I don't know if we discussed this last, I don't recall that. What was the recommendation of our professionals or our staffs regarding this ordinance?
I'm not sure if I understand the,
Well, you met with the zoning officer and the code enforcement officer and I guess the police chief. Was there a recommendation from any of them?
well, this ordinance is pertaining to the,
This is ordinance number 7, unless I
Right.
lost my place,
Short-term rental?
relative to
Yes.
short-term rentals.
right, I know that. Hold on, I just want to get the specific wording correctly here. All of these, any of the professionals that we met with, all agreed with these recommendations as far as the inspections and fines and mercantile license and everything that's in here.
Including the length of stays, minimum length of stay?
I don't,
I don't believe
I
that
don't
was
think that
necessarily
was in their
discussed with the
purview.
professionals, but it was discussed among the committee members, to my recollection.
right.
So you're, and I know Mr. DePamphlis is on the telephone. If he recalls differently, I'm sure he'll speak up. That there was no recommendation from the zoning officer relative to the length of stays.
No, not that I recall.
I believe it was discussed in front of him, but I don't think he was asked for, or did he volunteer a recommendation?
No.
Okay. You know, at the last meeting and over the years, I've enumerated the different communities that have, you know, the 30-day minimums and all that other stuff. We have 2 premier condominium associations right here in town that the minimum rental is much more than 30 days. I don't know why those communities would take those measures if this is something good for our community, and obviously, in my opinion, it's not. So, and that's the other thing, and I want to harp on, is that we've never really heard, or at least I've never heard, might have missed it, what this brings to our community, what this does for our town. That's
If
all
I
I
could-
have for right now.
If
Please.
I could just make a comment on that. I think this is not to encourage more short-term rentals. These ordinances are not to encourage more short-term rentals. These are to control and have some control over the ones that are already here, that have always been here, and that are always going to be here. Short-term rentals have been here since I've been coming to Summers Point. They just weren't called short-term rentals. My family came here in the summer, on the weekend, during the week, whatever, a day, 3 days, the summer, and we rented a little house behind a house, and there were no restrictions, no inspections, and no consequences for anything. So this is not to encourage more short-term rentals. They're here, they're not going anywhere, and we need to have some control over them. That's what I believe this is for.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Certainly, there's rentals, or what you described as rentals off the book or whatever. But, you know, the world has changed since these platforms have become more and more prevalent. And, you know, it's a shared economy. And as these things continue to proliferate, there's obviously much more. And we're only seeing really the beginning of this, and these will continue to proliferate. And that is why many communities have taken those measures to curtail them basically completely. So I don't know why, again, you know, I'm starting to repeat myself, but I don't know why our council can't protect our neighborhoods like.
I think if you do
everyone
some
else has.
research, which I've done a lot of research, if you go and on to any of those third-party agencies and look at the towns where they've banned them totally. There's a whole list of a lot of things that are available in those towns. It's not something you have any control over. So they're here, they're not going away. We need to have some rules and regulations, so we have some control.
May I make a statement?
Can we move on to the open to the public and let them voice their opinions, and then we do have another opportunity.
Okay.
Council President, I think if you let Mr. McGuigan speak, I think you should let
Okay,
Mrs. Bruno.
a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you, good point.
I
Speak into the
had
microphone.
just suggested that the council president allow Mr. McGuigan to speak, so I felt that she should have an obligation to also speak, or any other member of council, prior to opening it to the public.
Okay, good point, yes.
I feel that it's good that we are rules and regulations, and having something like a 30-day limit is just going to have people doing it behind, not getting a license and not obeying the rules. And the most serious problems I've heard are, rowdy groups and noise, and there are serious fines now in place that can be used that, I think any business facing those fines won't be allowing unruly visitors and losing their license. So I'm glad that's in there.
Thank you. Okay. Now, could I have a motion to open for public comment, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment for ordinance number 7. I will respectfully please ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes so everybody has an opportunity to speak.
Okay, Patricia Pearson, 587 Marks Road, Summers Point. I'd swear, whatever. Is littering and property maintenance, is this for, and it says units, apartments, and dwellings. What I hear now is are you talking about Airbnbs or all the maintenance of all the different units?
This is specific to short-term rentals. There's already ordinances in place for regular rentals, residential rentals.
Okay, so then why was that put there? Because if it's just specifically for Airbnbs, right?
May I answer that?
This particular ordinance is,
The way it's
we
written?
had to add language in there specific
Okay.
for short-term rentals.
All right, well, let me tell you, what I observed is on Facebook, somebody keeps putting on that they're trying to get rid of a dresser, a bureau, and something else, and how can they do it? Because they're not allowed to put it out, and I think it's in the apartment complexes, they're not allowed to put out heavy furniture, so I think you ought to pay attention to that. Plus, Groveland Manor, or whatever it's called now, has really cleaned up a little bit. They put new windows and doors and everything, and new lighting, whatever, signs, whatever. But sometimes you have to take the road in between those apartments or something, and it's really, really not that good. So you should be riding around looking at everything and make it for everything. Just don't pick out Airbnbs that aren't here yet. Well, they're here, but I mean, they have to deal with their trash. But you should look at the apartment buildings too.
There's already ordinances in place for,
Well, if the ordinance are in place, and you know
Yeah,
what,
please.
you have, because I have drove around and I have seen them, and you too have, so you know what I'm talking about.
Listen, maybe I can clarify for you with the President. The reason why it says Chapter 169, littering and property maintenance, Article 5. Chapter 169 is headed the littering and property maintenance, so it has to be stated. Article 5 only pertains to registration and inspection of certain rental units, which, as the council president pointed out, is short-term rentals, and it doesn't just apply to Airbnb because there are numerous platforms out there.
Okay, well, the more it applies to, the better in this town, let me tell you. And if it applied to the buildings and everything else, it would be a lot better too. So I wasn't going to talk, but since I see this here and I saw it on Facebook and I know what goes on in back of those apartments and I can see everything, I'm not, I think you should pay attention and upgrade it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to close, please? Okay. That's okay.
I'm just back again, and I understand that, you know, my last time here about talking
Just
about...
state your name and address
Sorry,
for the
my
record.
name's Jim, she did, but my name's Jim Oswald, 500 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Thank you.
Last time I was here, I talked about businesses, and I think your solicitor mentioned that you could not, and I'm going to take it from the newspaper the other day, and I understand that's not fact. I mean, or it's just, you know, but bring it up. You cannot require off-shore parking, off-street parking, unless the state changes policy to treat a short-term rentals as a business. And my point has been trying to regulate this for off-street parking. But now you're charging mercantile tax, you're talking a hotel and motel tax. Why isn't that a business? You're charging a business tax, but you're telling me on one hand, you're not going to charge a business tax because it's not a business, and now you're saying, and I'm sorry, I can't.
Karen Bruno.
Ms. Bruno just used the term, it's a business. So one minute it's a business, your solicitor said last time it's not a business. And I'm just asking you, my concern with this, I am not opposed to short-term rentals across the board. I am really opposed to having none regulation. And my concern is you have two people per room plus two is 10 people. On any of your streets, can you fit 20 cars? I'm asking you to please try to regulate that, even if it's in the form of a permit parking. This city has permit parking in certain areas, and certain areas it's not. But I'm just saying, this is your time. Your idea of a 10-mile radius, I think is genius. It's phenomenal. I totally support it. It's great. But you have a chance now to regulate this and try to open the doors, not close the doors, to have this thing heavily regulated. I agree with what people are saying. I agree with what Councilman McGuigan read last week. You know, the sure starts here, but it doesn't have to be, you know, we enjoy our neighborhoods. We enjoy the solitude that we have in the neighborhoods. I don't enjoy not being able to get my boat back in my garage, in my driveway, because there's 8 cars parked against me because of a rental property. And that's all I'm asking you to try to take a look at this. You're saying it's not a business. On one hand, they asked, 2 weeks ago, your solicitor said it's not a business, but now you're charging a mercantile tax. You have a councilwoman that says it's a business. What is it? That's all I'm asking you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't mean to add stress to your life. This week I took all your stuff with me, but I'm not going to do it tonight. So, have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to close the public portion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 7, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comments?
Yeah, Council President, just to address what the gentleman questioned about public's, about parking or a number of vehicles at a short-term rental. The solicitor made it pretty clear, from my understanding, that you can't regulate a public street as far as parking is concerned. So therefore, there are other variables. If a person can't get into their driveway for some reason, there are restrictions and there's regulations associated with parking so far from a curb, so far from a corner, so far as far as driveways are concerned and things of that nature, and a simple call to the police department if that's the case. But as far as restricting parking on a public street, it's my understanding that our solicitor explained that at the last meeting, that we do not have the ability to do that. Thank you.
Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Owen,
Be yes to adopt.
Councilmember Bruno,
Yes.
Councilmember McCary,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuigan,
No.
Councilmember DePamphlis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dill?
Yes.
Council President Johnston?
Yes. Ordinance number 7 is adopted. Ordinance number 8.
Ordinance number 8 of 2023, an ordinance amending the Summers Point Municipal Code, Chapter 174, Mercantile Licenses, Section 174-4, Fees.
May I have a motion to open for public comment for ordinance number 8, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment for ordinance number 8. May I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 8?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? I guess should we do a roll call vote too on this one? We might as well.
Councilmember DePamphlis? Councilmember McCary?
Yes.
Councilmember McGuigan?
No.
Councilmember Dill?
Yes.
Councilmember Owen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bruno?
Yes.
Council President Johnston?
Yes. Ordinance number 8 is adopted. Ordinance number 9.
Ordinance number 9 of 2023, an ordinance renaming, amending, and supplementing the Summers Point Municipal Code, Chapter 228, Taxation, Article 2, Hotel and Motel Room Occupancy Tax.
May I have a motion to open for public comment, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment on ordinance number 9.
Motion to close the public portion on ordinance number 9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 9, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. McGuigan.
obviously, since we're going to have these, and I don't like to tax a lot of things, but I will tax this, so I will be voting yes for this, so if you might skip the roll call vote.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance number 9 is adopted. Okay. Could I have a motion to open for public comment for resolutions, for any of the resolutions?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment for resolutions only.
How you doing, Rick Freed, 409 Dobbs Avenue. I'm just curious, what is this Dobbs Avenue area cleanup about?
Mr. Frost?
Sure, so, right by Jordan Road School, there's an unimproved lot right
Okay.
on Dobbs Avenue.
Okay.
The Greater Egg Harbor River Council, the ACUA, and our environmental commission are doing a cleanup of that lot. They're not adding any improvement, but they're just kind of getting all the legacy trash out of there, cleaning up the brush and dead trees and stuff like that. So
Okay.
we wanted to do a resolution authorizing that to occur.
All right, I didn't know if it was for the area in front of my house near MacArthur. Because there's always a lot of litter and stuff in there, in the bushes and stuff. And I just want to make a point that I was very upset the other day, well, not the other day, it was probably a week or two ago. Somebody came and patched right near my house where they dug up for, I'm not sure, I think it was water. And then they came back later and they repatched it. And there was a couple trucks, and about 6 guys, and I took them out a bunch of Gatorades. Well, today I was walking the dogs, and all the Gatorade bottles are laying in the bushes.
Mr. Freed, what's your address?
Yes, thank you.
What's your address?
409 Dobbs Avenue.
Thank you.
And that was the water company?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to close, please?
Motion to close the
Second.
public portion on the resolutions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Resolution number 68.
Resolution number 68 of 2023, temporary budget emergency number 2.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember McCary,
Yes.
Councilmember McGuigan,
Yes.
Councilmember Dill,
Yes.
Councilmember Bruno,
Yes.
Councilmember Owen,
Yes.
Councilmember DePamphlis. Yes. Council President Johnston.
Yes. Resolution number 68 is approved. Resolution number 69.
Resolution number 69 of 2023, authorizing purchase of one John Deere 302-5D compact utility tractor with accessory rake and at the adjusted contract price.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comments?
The appropriation for this purchase was in 2022, correct? Has no effect on this year's budget. Thank you.
And it's also about $1,400 lower,
Which is always nice.
right?
It's a quality product, too.
That doesn't happen, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 69 is approved. Number 70.
Resolution number 70 of 2023, authorizing executive session. Any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiation in which the public body is or may become a party. Any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer. The nature of the matters to be discussed, described as fully as possible without undermining the need for confidentiality. 1. Advice of counsel and attorney-client communication regarding the status of legal and procedural issues pertaining to a plan for development of properties located along 901 Mays Landing Road, Block 1941.01, Lots 2 and 5.01, Block 1943, Lots 2 and 3, Block 1944, Lot 3, Block 1945, Lot 2.02, and Block 1946, Lot 1, including the provision of affordable housing obligations in compliance with the Summers Point Municipal Code, Chapter 69 and 114-86.1.g, a 2008 court-approved settlement agreement, the April 26, 2018 court-approved settlement agreement between the city and Fair Share Housing Center and the city's housing element and Fair Share Plan. 2, advice of counsel and attorney-client communication regarding the status and legal procedure issues pertaining to a plan for development of properties along 900 Summers Point Mays Landing Road, Block 2020, Lot 3, including the negotiation of the terms and conditions of a redevelopment plan, a redevelopment agreement, and affordable housing obligations in compliance with Summers Point Municipal Code, Chapter 69, and the April 26, 2018 court-approved settlement agreement between the city and Fair Share Housing Center. 3, advice of counsel and city engineer and attorney-client communication regarding the legal and procedural issues pertaining to the terms and conditions of a proposed agreement between the city, R2F2 Inc., and a homeowners association to be formed regarding vacation of a portion of Oak Lane, Block 1944, Lot 1, Block 1945, Lot 2.02, and Block 1946, Lot 1 to be negotiated.
Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any comments? We'll go into executive session after we finish the rest of the meeting so that everybody doesn't have to hang around. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 70 is adopted. The consent agenda. Do you read this? You have to read this? No. Could I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I'll make that motion to adopt the
Second.
consent
Second.
agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is adopted. Okay. We already discussed the old business. Does anyone have any other old business to discuss? Hearing none. Anyone have any new business to discuss?
Madam President?
Yes, Mr.
As I had mentioned earlier, the Environmental Commission has proposed a couple amendments, and I did receive a memo with regards to them from Mr. Helbig, the chairman of the Environmental Commission, and I'll condense that memo here. There's basically two proposed amendments to our code. One is within the site plan review, which is amending chapters 114 to 143 and 114 to 144, or 114-143 and 114-144, which involves the submission requirements for major and minor site plans. Essentially, he's asking that the provision of bicycle parking racks be included at proposed commercial and institutional development sites. And I know it's strongly suggested now at the planning board level in most cases, but he's asking that it becomes part of the code, and I tend to agree with that idea. Item number 2, regarding amending those same chapters, subparagraphs B16 and B20, is to provide applicants the option of meeting tree planting requirements if they fall short, or for some reason they have to fall short on the subject property, that they then fulfill those tree planting requirements on city-owned property. So essentially, if they need 10 trees, by way of example, and they can only fit 9 or 8, whatever, they would put the other 2 or 1 within designated or selected areas of our public lands. And again, I agree with that one as well. So I don't know, pending some discussion here, I can draft some ordinances and run them by Mr. Smith, if there is some will here. And if Mr. Helbig wants to add anything I've left out, he can certainly do that.
Sure. Let's see. 1 second. To do that. John Helbig, 106 East Dawes Avenue. As Councilman McGuigan indicated, you know, when applicants for commercial development come into our city, we ask them at this point if they could add a bike rack to their site plan. And my feeling is that should be a requirement. It's a checklist item. If they feel that that couldn't be done for public safety reasons, or they can't fit it on the property, all they would have to do is ask for a waiver of that. That's a very standard procedure under the site plan requirements. So I think it should be mandatory in our ordinance. As far as the tree planting requirements, there are occasions when, again, generally with commercial development, for site triangle reasons or conflicts with utilities, a developer can't put the requisite number of trees on the subject property. In that case, I would just recommend that we require, with the consultation with the reviewing board, whether that's the planning or the zoning board, and our city engineer, that planning that's required be done on city-owned property, JFK Park, behind the senior center, along the bike path, somewhere, and that the provisions of the specific district hold the number of trees, size of the trees, type of trees, and the maintenance guarantees would still hold, so that if those trees died a year later, that developer would have to come back and replace those, just like he would on his own property. So those are the two. I think they're pretty minor amendments to our land development standards, but I think they're important.
How do they, what's the formula now to determine how many
It
trees go on a
varies by district. Actually, it varies by zoning district.
Okay.
It can be, depends on frontage. In some cases, it depends on the square footage of the retail space being provided, you know, and there's a lot of times, because we have traffic, you know, we have traffic situations where driveways intersect. You can't plant trees close to an intersection because it'll block sight distance. So it's just an opportunity for these developers. I don't think the city should lose out on that. And I think we could use trees in certain areas of the city on our public lands.
Mr. Helbig, is there any type of formula for bike racks based on commercial, size of commercial properties or anything of that nature?
You know, I'm sure there are. I could do a little bit of research on that and provide that to the board. That's not a problem.
Because the only thing I can say is Mr. McGuigan, I support both the
Thank
Environmental Commission and you and Mr. McGuigan on both of these. But I just don't know, I'm just not aware of, I'm in favor of bike racks, okay, because we are a bike rack a bike community.
Right.
But I would just like to have some kind of a formula so that when, being a member of the planning board, when something comes before us, we can say that the requirement is X amount of bike racks based on some type of formula that we either develop or is already in existence. Because we certainly don't want to reinvent the wheel.
No, I agree. You know, I'll communicate with our city engineer on that, with Greg Snyder.
Okay.
So Greg's aware of that, and he can share that with the board, with the planning board.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Council President?
Yes.
I like both ideas as well, both amendments. We are working on becoming a bike-friendly community through economic development, and as well as with all new development, it'll alleviate a lot of parking, with more people on bicycles rather than, burn up fossil fuels. And, trees, environmental, you can't go wrong there either,
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody? I agree on both of these. I just don't want to, as long as it's, within reason as far as bike racks, you don't want to, I think it could be handled on an individual basis, if it doesn't make sense, obviously. But yes, I agree with both of these, and also agree you can never go wrong with having more trees. Any other comments? Any other? So, Mr. McGuigan, you'll get together with Mr. Smith
Take a crack
and,
at drafting something and communicate more with John as we come up with a formula. Maybe the formula for the bike rack is just spitballing, is based on square footage or whatnot. I don't know if there's a small doctor's office that we force it to have a bike rack, but, but there would certainly be able to find something and come up with that. And what I'll do is I'll draft that and then pass it on to Mr. Smith to give it a once-over, and then we'll put it on the agenda for a discussion item,
Right.
and then move it along.
okay.
Madam President?
Yes,
I like trees too, but trees, their roots tend to go obviously underground, and the piping that we have throughout the city, all right, it's terracotta, let's call it, okay? Many times, these roots can go through there and create problems for individuals. I think we have to be very careful about where we plant trees, and how we think about this, and what kind of, I guess you'd call it, infrastructure we have underneath the street, that we don't put ourselves in a position where we're planting trees this year, and 10 years from now, we're digging up the street to put new piping in because it's flooded out the community. So we got to be careful about how we do this, and we have to do this along with the experts who understand this, and I'm sure John understands this process, so we got to be careful about it.
well, I'm sure we have our professionals that can advise us
And that's-
where they should
yep.
be, and
All right.
that should be part of the
That's,
process, so.
Okay.
yeah. Any other new business? No, okay. Discussion of the bills, Mr. Frost.
Yes, this evening we have a bill list in the amount of $2,737,140.81.
May I have a motion to open for public comment, please?
I'll make that motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? We're now open for public comment. If anyone wishes to speak, please step up, state your name and address for the record. May I have a motion to close?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now closed for public comment. Payment of the bills. Everyone okay with us paying the bills?
Sure, I'll make that motion to pay the bills.
Good. Pay 'em.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Mr. Frost, you can pay our bills. Any further comments from the governing body?
Yes, Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to recognize one of our employees. Steve, would you please stand up for a second?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, look at
I know, he hates this.
Steve
He
Hornick.
does.
All right, so
He does.
Steve Hornick has a very important position in the city. I received an email, you can sit down now. I received an email from a citizen who had an issue this past weekend, and it was very serious. And he was very upset, he wanted something taken care of, and I made a couple calls early in the week, and before this meeting, yesterday, in fact, so only in a 3-day period of time, Steve and his team were out there, met with the client, and is in the process of taking care of that issue. And I just think it's important, I mean, it's his job, but at the same time, the way he responds and the way he just goes about doing things on a daily basis, I just think it's important to recognize him as one of the employees of the city that does just an incredible job. So,
yes.
Yes, thank you.
I do have a very good team that I have the privilege to work with.
Thank you.
So, you know, they get the credit as well.
okay.
Thank
You owe me
you.
lunch, Steve.
What's Steve's position?
The sewer utility department within Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works.
Thank you.
So that's, that's a very important spot in the city. Yeah,
Especially at night.
especially at night.
Yes, and it always happens at night, right,
Yeah.
Steve?
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a short recess, and then we're going to go into executive session. Just 5 minutes, please.